Thank you.
Good luck. Thank you very
so much.
We'll be back with the headlines very shortly.
Hello, live from London, this is BBC News. Israeli forces kill a senior Hamas commander and 2 other fighters in the occupied West Bank. A teenager in a playground is among 7 killed in a Russian strike on Ukraine's second largest city, Kharkiv. Brazil bans the social media platform X amid a spat over disinformation. So what has the chief executive Elon Musk had to say? And let the race begin. Hundreds of thousands of Oasis fans scramble online to get their tickets to one of the most hotly anticipated reunions in rock history. Welcome, I'm Luxmy Gopal. Let's start in the Middle East. Israel says it's killed a Hamas commander in Jenin in the West Bank on the 3rd day of its military operation there, an operation that's drawn international criticism, including here in the UK. The Foreign Office here says it's deeply concerned about Israel's methods and reports of civilian casualties and the destruction of civilian infrastructure. And very fitting hair, very appropriate for being a tribute band member. Thank you both, Nick McKay and Harry Kind from Which. Thank you both. Stay with us here on BBC News. This is BBC News, your headlines. Israeli forces have killed a senior Hamas commander and 2 other fighters in Jenin as a major operation in the occupied West Bank continues. The campaign to vaccinate more than 500,000 children against polio is getting underway in Gaza this weekend. Israel and Hamas have agreed to pause fighting in certain areas to allow the rollout to take place. The far right is on the cusp of winning the most votes in German state elections for the first time since the Nazis. Hundreds of thousands of people are right now queuing online for tickets for next year's reunion tour of the British rock band Oasis. The defending men's tennis champion Novak Djokovic has been knocked out of the US Open by Australia's Alexei Poprin. Welcome, I'm Luxmy Gopal. Well, let's turn to Germany now on that story about how voters in the east of the country will go to the polls on Sunday, with the far-right Alternative for Germany party set to come out on top. Now, researchers have found that marmoset monkeys use unique calls to address one another, similar to the way humans call each other by name. They're the first non-human primates known to do so. Scientists think that using names likely helps the tiny primates to keep their families close and maintain social cohesion. Now, I've just got some breaking news to bring you, something from Ticketmaster, who say that their website has not crashed. This is on the sale of Oasis tickets. They say that the queue is moving along as fans buy tickets. And just to show you what fans who have successfully got in the queue to buy tickets will be seeing, this is just an example for the lucky few who are waiting. Ticketmaster said, as anticipated, millions of fans are accessing our site, so have been placed in a queue. They say the site has not crashed. Do stay with us here on BBC News. Live from London, this is BBC News. A senior Hamas commander and 2 other fighters are killed by Israeli forces in the occupied West Bank. Mass polio vaccinations begin this weekend in Gaza, Israel and Hamas agreeing to localise pauses in fighting so more than 500,000 children can get vaccinated. Brazil bans the social media platform X amid a feud with Elon Musk. We find out why and for how long. Oasis fans contend with queues and website crashes as they try for tickets to see one of the world's most hotly anticipated rock reunions. And the boy who broke the Bronze Age jar is welcomed back to the scene of the crime. Hello and welcome, I'm Luxmy Gopal. Well, let's start with the events in the Middle East. Israel says it's killed a Hamas commander in Jenin in the West Bank on the 3rd day of its military operation there, an operation that's drawn international criticism, including from the UK. Here, the Foreign Office says it's deeply concerned about Israel's methods and reports of civilian casualties and the destruction of civilian infrastructure. And finally, a new study that isn't monkeying around. Researchers have found that marmoset monkeys use unique calls to address one another, similar to the way humans call each other by name. They're the first non-human primates known to do so. Now, just to remind you of a line that we brought that broke a few minutes ago, Ticketmaster insists that their site hasn't crashed, despite many Oasis fans saying that was the case. Stay with us here on BBC News. This is BBC News. I'm Luxmy Gopal. Your headlines. Israeli forces kill a senior Hamas commander and 2 other fighters in Jenin as a major operation in the occupied West Bank continues. Meanwhile, a campaign to vaccinate more than 500,000 children against polio is getting underway in Gaza this weekend. Israel and Hamas have agreed to pause fighting in certain areas to allow the rollout to take place. The far right is on the cusp of winning the most votes in German state elections for the first time since the Nazis. Hundreds of thousands of people are right now queuing online for tickets for next year's reunion tour of the British rock band Oasis. The defending men's tennis champion Novak Djokovic has been knocked out of the US Open by Australia's Alexei Poprin. Well, let's go back to that scramble to get Oasis tickets for their reunion gigs, which went on sale 2.5 hours ago here in the UK. And as you can imagine, booking websites have gone into meltdown as fans try to get on to book. Similar issues were encountered when the 2 shows at Dublin's Croke Park in Ireland went on sale. So what you're seeing now is what fans who are currently in the queue are seeing. Obviously, some fans haven't even got to this stage and are in a queue in order to get to a queue. But those who have managed to get themselves in a position in that queue to get tickets are seeing this. Now, the band has warned that any tickets for their reunion concerts resold unofficially at inflated prices will be cancelled. Our reporter Sarah Rogers in Bolton updated me on the situation with the tickets. Our reporter Sarah Rogers. You're watching BBC News. The time is just coming up to 10:35. In January, the UN's top court, the International Court of Justice, ruled that Israel must take all measures to prevent genocidal acts in Gaza, including public statements that could incite genocide. It was an interim ruling in a case brought by South Africa accusing Israel of committing genocide, which Israel strongly rejects. BBC News Arabic has been investigating. Live from London, this is BBC News. Fighting pauses in parts of Gaza in preparation for the delivery of polio vaccines. More than 600,000 children are to be inoculated. Social media silence as Brazil bans X. The Supreme Court suspends Elon Musk's platform until it complies with legal orders. Oasis fans contend with queues and website crashes as they race for tickets for one of the world's most hotly anticipated rock reunions. And a museum welcomes back a 4-year-old boy who smashed a 3,500-year-old vase. Hello and welcome, I'm Luxmy Gopal. Fighting has paused in parts of Gaza as the United Nations prepares to roll out hundreds of thousands of doses of polio vaccine. The territory this week identified its first case of polio in 25 years. But Israel's operations in the occupied West Bank are now into their 4th day. The raids there have drawn international criticism, including from the UK. The Foreign Office says it's deeply concerned about Israel's methods and reports of civilian casualties and the destruction of civilian infrastructure. Now it's time for a look at today's sports news with Mike Bushell. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Luxmy. Thanks very much indeed. Well, what turned out in football to be a record-breaking transfer window for 8 Premier League clubs, no less. It finally came to a close late on Friday, UK time, and a couple of big loan deals were completed just in the nick of time with Chelsea forward. Now, England's cricketers have just lost a wicket as they look to stretch their lead on the 3rd day of the second test against Sri Lanka at Lords. So let's just have a look at the old scoreboard. It's actually 30. I can update this scoreboard here because it's literally just happened. 36 for 2. So, I mean, England's lead is still huge, isn't it? Leading by 267 runs with 8 wickets remaining as they look to take an unassailable lead in the series against Sri Lanka in the sunshine at Lords. But a wicket nonetheless for Sri Lanka on this day. That's all for now, though. Luxy, back to you.
Thanks, Mike. We'll speak to you later. Now, hundreds of thousands of Oasis fans, you may be one of them, have been trying to get their tickets online to one of the most hotly anticipated reunions in rock history. Some fans reported websites crashing because of the demand. If you haven't experienced that and you're a fan in a queue, this is what it may well look like for you. Fans who have managed to get into a queue, no matter how far back they are in the queue, are seeing images like that at the moment. So there is hope yet.
There is hope yet.
Chi-Chi, thank you. That's Chi-Chi Izindu, ending on a positive note there. Now, you may have heard the story this week of a 4-year-old boy who accidentally smashed an ancient vase during a trip to a museum. Here's how the 3,500-year-old pottery looked after Ariel Geller tipped it over at the Hecht Museum in the Israeli city of Haifa. Well, you might not believe this, but they've invited him back. Ariel, seen here in a blue cap with his hand being firmly held by his mum, was given a guided tour with his family. The museum's curators, who try to display artefacts as openly as possible, said they wanted to reassure Ariel that they understand that he didn't do it on purpose. Still, very good idea for the mum to hold his hand extra tight this time. Stay with us here on BBC News. This is BBC News. I'm Luxmy Gopal. Your headlines. UN agencies in Gaza are preparing to deliver a mass polio vaccination campaign this weekend after localised pauses in fighting were agreed with Israel and Hamas. More than 600,000 children are due to be vaccinated after the first case of polio in 25 years was found in Gaza. Brazil begins blocking Elon Musk's social media platform X in a dispute about the spread of disinformation. Mr. Musk, a self-proclaimed free speech absolutist, describes the judge behind the decision as an evil dictator. Hundreds of thousands of people are right now queuing online for tickets for next year's reunion tour of the British rock band Oasis. And a new study finds marmosets are more like humans than we might think. The monkeys use unique calls to address one another, similar to the way humans do. Now on BBC News, it's time for Talking Business.
Hello and welcome to Talking Business with me, Ty Enright. Let's have a look at what's on the show. It might be the last thing most of us are thinking about right now, but for toy manufacturers and retailers, the next few weeks and months, well, it's all about Christmas. The so-called golden quarter is when shoppers buy toys like at no other time of the year. But with falling birth rates and tough financial times around the world, this particular toy story means companies are facing some difficult challenges, with consumers having to make hard decisions about how to spend their cash. So, could a surprising new trend give the toy industry a much needed boost? This time, it's not about spending on toys for children, but adults, so-called kidults. An emerging generation of over 18s is snapping up collectibles and nostalgia brands, and they say it's good for their mental health. I'm going to be discussing that and more with my guests. The boss of Build-A-Bear, the stores where you can create a bespoke teddy bear, and the chief executive of the world's biggest toy company and arguably one of its most iconic brands, Lego. I'll also be catching up with the president of the company behind leading toy brands Barbie, Hot Wheels, Fisher-Price and more, that's Mattel, to find out how TV and movie tie-ups are reviving his company's fortunes. Wherever you're joining me from around the world, once again, a big hello and a warm welcome to the programme. It's a billion-dollar industry driven by creativity and innovation. Well, that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget, you can keep up with the latest on our global economy on the BBC website or the smartphone app. You can also follow me on social media. I'm at Ty Enright. Thank you for watching. See you again soon. Bye-bye.
Live from London, this is BBC News. Fighting is to pause in parts of Gaza in preparation for the delivery of polio vaccines. More than 600,000 children are to be inoculated. Brazil bans social media platform X. The Supreme Court suspends Elon Musk's service until it complies with legal orders. Oasis fans contend with queues and technical problems as they chase tickets for one of the world's most hotly anticipated rock reunions. And a museum welcomes back a 4-year-old boy who smashed a 3,500-year-old vase. Hello and welcome, I'm Luxmy Gopal. UN agencies are preparing to deliver a mass vaccination campaign across Gaza this weekend to protect children from polio. The territory this month identified its first case of the disease for 25 years. It's hoped more than 600,000 children will be vaccinated. The programme has been disrupted by the war in Gaza. Israel and Hamas have agreed 3 localised pauses in the fighting to allow health teams to carry out their work. Now, you may have heard the story this week of a 4-year-old boy who accidentally smashed an ancient vase during a trip to a museum. Have a look. Here is how the 3,500-year-old pottery looked after Ariel Geller tipped it over at the Hecht Museum in the Israeli city of Haifa. Well, believe it or not, they've invited him back. Ariel, seen here in a blue cap with his hand being very firmly held by Mum, was given a guided tour with his family. The museum's curators, who tried to display artefacts as openly as possible, whether that's a good idea or not, wanted to reassure Ariel that they understand he didn't do it on purpose. Well, hopefully he's learnt his lesson. Stay with us here on BBC News. This is BBC News, your headlines. Humanitarian aid organisations are gearing up for a mass polio immunisation campaign in Gaza, which will officially begin on Sunday morning. Israel and Hamas have agreed to a sequence of localised pauses in fighting to allow for more than 600,000 children to be vaccinated. Meanwhile, Israel is pressing on with its operation in the occupied West Bank for the fourth day after a senior Hamas commander and 2 other fighters were killed in Jenin. The German army leaves Niger, completing its withdrawal from the West African nation as its military-run government turns towards Russia. Oasis fans are contending with long waits and technical problems as they chase tickets for one of the world's most hotly anticipated rock reunions. Ticketmaster advises fans to hold their places in the line, saying that the queue is moving. And if Oasis isn't your thing, can't believe I'm about to say this, but we'll take a look at the high-powered world of competitive toe wrestling. Welcome to BBC News, I'm Luxmy Gopal, and let's start with an update on the polio vaccination programme, which will take place in Gaza this weekend. The UN has now confirmed that it will start at 7:30 in the morning local time. UNICEF has now said that the first phase will start in Deir al-Balah in central Gaza for children between 5 and 10 years old. It says the vaccinations will take place for 6.5 hours each day until the 4th of September. It's urged parents in Gaza to bring their children, stressing that the vaccinations are free and safe. Now, we've already had a great summer of international sport, haven't we? And there's yet another major tournament happening today, the 50th World Toe Wrestling Championship. Described as being like arm wrestling but with feet, the idea is to lock toes and try to push your opponent's foot against a board. All feet are inspected for cleanliness, I should hope so, before a bout, and the winning man and woman will receive £500 and a bronze foot. It's taking place in Ashbourne in Derbyshire, but attracts contestants from as far as India, China and the United States. Well, that's something I never expected to be able to see, but there you go. You learn something new every day, don't you? We are going to take a look at the weather forecast now, give you a break from looking at feet, and let's find out what the forecast has in store with Stab. From London, this is BBC News. A campaign to immunise more than 600,000 children in Gaza begins on Sunday. Fighting will pause in some areas to allow the delivery of polio vaccines. Brazil's Supreme Court blocks access to X. Platform owner Elon Musk lashes out at the judge, labelling him an evil dictator. Oasis fans prove their commitment to the British rock group, waiting in online queues for hours to secure tickets to their long-awaited reunion. Hello and welcome, I'm Luxmy Gopal. UN agencies are preparing to deliver a mass vaccination campaign across Gaza this weekend to protect children from polio. The territory this month identified its first case of the disease for 25 years. It's hoped more than 600,000 children will be vaccinated. The programme has been disrupted by the war in Gaza. Israel and Hamas have agreed 3 localised pauses in the fighting to allow health teams to carry out their work. Now it's time to take a look at today's sports news with Chetan. Hi, Chetan.
Hi Luxmy, thank you. We're going to start with football. After a flurry of late activity in Friday's transfer window, the attention turns back to the action on the pitch. Arsenal announced the signing of Raheem Sterling on a season-long loan, and England's cricketers have extended their lead at lunch on the 3rd day of their second test against Sri Lanka at Lord's. 159 for 4 in their second innings. That's a lead of 390. Joe Root's 45 not out win for England would give them then an unassailable 2-0 lead in the series. You can follow that on the BBC Sport website. I'll have more for you later, but that, Luxmy, is all your sport for now.
Chetan, thank you. State elections will be held in Germany on Sunday, and in the country's east, the far-right party, Alternative for Germany, stands a real chance of winning. Our reporter Catherine Stancheshan there. Now, some breaking news to bring you. We can bring you some of the first images now coming through of the mass vaccination programme in Gaza to protect children against polio. We brought you the breaking news in the past half hour that Palestinian health workers have started vaccinating some babies against polio ahead of the mass immunisation programme that's starting on Sunday. So health workers carried out the vaccinations in Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis. Those are the images that you're seeing there. UNICEF says that the official campaign will start 7:30 in the morning local time. It was last month that polio was detected in Gaza for the first time in 25 years. Stay with us on BBC News.
Hello there. It's been a glorious sunny start for most of us to begin this weekend. However,